Hey kids, it's me, Mr. Archer, and Sophia is with me, and we'll be doodling for you today. Um, we miss you dearly, and we wanted to do something fun for you. So today you'll need a number two pencil, something to draw on, maybe a ruler, if not a straight edge, maybe like a edge of a book, and a way to sharpen your pencil, and a cool bowl. Anyway, welcome to my bunker deep below the Earth's surface.
It's our basement.
It's our basement. Warm ups before drawings. Just, get your hand eye coordination going with your pencil. There's some circles, some lines, diagonal, vertical, horizontal. And do some swirlies. Then you can do curves. See. From there, you can do shapes. So we'll do basic shapes like square, circle, and triangle, rectangle. And the book went on to even mention, free shapes. And, before doing lines, when an area is completely surrounded by a line, then it becomes a shape. Okay. And then from warming up with lines and shapes, you can move on to doing forms. And I've done a few already. I'll show you. So with these basic forms, you can see my light is coming from the left, and I've got a cube, sphere, cone, and cylinder. And I've just added a little bit of shading, not a lot of tone, just to give it a little bit of depth. And that's something I'm still trying to get into the swing of. I've always had a hard time with it, but one thing I learned from that book was to really bring out the best form is to use a single light. So here I've changed the direction of the light coming from the right instead of from the left. Now going from adding a little bit of shading and tone. If we focus on tone. Tone is the overall color of an object, and it can be like light, medium, or dark. And then you can add on the shading, and then you go from shading to a cast shadow. So this cast shadow is narrower, and it's kind of like a narrow vertical slice of that form.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to practice a couple of those, you do the basic forms up here and add some tone and then do shading and a cast shadow. I'll do one with you. So I'm going to start off with do basic shape, square, and then so if we have our light source coming off from the left, and we can make that almost black, really. And then we gotta keep this narrow and keep it flat. Now, this, for me anyways, doing like a cube seems like a good place to start with, because with a round, like let's say like a sphere, and we have our light source coming off from the left. Okay, so we have the absence of light back here, right? And you have to really, this is we're just using a number two pencil. We're not like blending it with a stomp or anything, or grinding any of the lead down. Graphite. So With a rounded object, you really got to blend those to give it basic things, basic to give it basic form. And then again, the shadow will be like just a narrow. If you do anything, larger, you're looking at it at its edge. So if you try to bring it around, now it just look like a little paper cutout next to it. Won't make any sense, right? And then so we have let's do cone from the opposite side here. Okay, so if you have light coming here, can I stop? Can I give it? Let me go back to what I was saying with tone. So if I go back to better explain tone and whatnot. So tone is the overall color of the entire surface of an object. You could say it's light, medium, or dark. Applied to, say, the cube, ball, or cone, the objects begin to have more substance and solidity. This light source is coming from this direction, from the left, and a highlight here. It's been left here and here on the edge here to give it that form. So you have your tone, highlight, your cast shadow, shading. So highlight, tone, shading, cast shadow, so on. So, in the shape of a shadow is like a vertical cross section of the object, and it's lying down flat. You're seeing it from the edge. I think I mentioned that before. So it looks narrower and than the thickness of the object. And I'll quickly just go over perspective. Now, perspective, shading, all that stuff, I've always struggled with. I'm trying to get better at it in this perfect time to start doing this again. We'll just discuss 1 point perspective. So we're going to make a horizon line up here. Use this nice medley side. Alright, so you got a ruler. Alright, so I'm gonna pick a point here. Right. So now if you think of a road, you know that when you're looking at the road, the edges of the road are parallel.
Yeah.
And when we look at the road, we know that those lines go on and on. They don't actually converge to a point. But for when we're drawing, it's we get the illusion when we see it, but we know, so it's we can't really see how things really are. So let's say we have our horizon line and we have a point. We can make a basic shape here. I'm going to make a square. Okay, now you could be more exact with the ruler if you choose, but I'm just going to push these lines back to the point here. Now we can cut this off with dotted lines here, and we can make a friend next to it, a happy little square. Sorry. Okay, but so we're pushing the lines back to that vanishing point on the horizon line. So give our object some form here. Now, if I was using a ruler, it would be much nicer. Again, we can use dotted lines here. And then when you're done, you just erase all this stuff here. So it gives it that perspective from there. And you can go on and on and on and on. And that's just one point. You know, you could put points on either end of the horizon line, 2 point, and then so on. So if you had a multi-point, let's say you had a curved road going, you know, there's going to be vanishing points like all along that too. But just worry about 1 point perspective for now. The closer an object is in the foreground, the lower you place it in the frame. So we've got this apple. I think it's an apple. And corn hanging. And a melon. But today I have a more of a modern... let's see, where am I going here? Today I have a modern example. We'll be doing toilet paper, canned corn, and duct tape. Now, in that example in the book, it was all spheres. So you start off with the basic shapes. So I've limited it to cylinders. So you'll have to do the shapes of the cylinders. Okay. Then after we do the basic shapes, we're going to do a table line. So at a 1/3 mark here in the picture. And we'll add details as we go along. So, and this is called a still life. So, do a good job or you fail. You have to sleep outside. Okay, so we have 3 cylinders. Follow along. Everybody's going to be watching you, not me, because I'm going to cut away from me. Now, I'm going to shoot for that. Okay. I'll be able to see all the TP. Now, see, for me, the toilet paper is lower. It's closer. So now, I still find this really tricky. I don't know about you. I can see the duct tape band. It only comes up, it looks like it's at halfway. Don't cheat. Don't cheat on me. You're going to fail. I'm not doing a good job. So, once you have the basic shapes down, just like we did in the warm-ups, I'm not going to worry about tone or shading or cast shadow or anything right now. Okay. You'll have a chance to do the shapes. Once that's done, you go in and you can erase any lines. Like, so if you drew the duct tape and then you did the soup can or the corn can, you can erase the lines there. And I'm going to adjust my perspective here, which is not good. How about you? Oh well. So I'm going to add table line. I recommend using a ruler. Bloop. Take your Fantastic. Okay. Let's see. That looks great. I had a fellow student in college. I took a drawing class.
Yeah.
And she looked at my paper and she said, "Wow, that is so good. I really like the way you draw." Except she erased everything. Started fixing it for me. Don't do that. Don't do that to people. People don't like that. I have my basic shapes. You're doing well. Now, from there, you can continue to add more detail. But one thing let's try is adding a vanishing point. And we're going to choose the middle of the paper. So, quick! What's 11 divided by 2? Pretty sure it's 5.5, right? Right?
Yeah.
Now, what's 8.5 divided by 2? It's right here. Let's just guess right there. How's that? Okay, so make a point right about here. What we're going to do is, I know this isn't a beautiful wood floor. This is, I don't know what that is. You'll choose that point here. I'll choose this one. And I'm going to make a line from here, straight up, not all the way, just enough to cover like it is a nice wood, piece of wood. And then I'm going to vary the width of each board. Why, you ask? Just to add interest. One thing I learned from a friend of mine, Dan Stairs, is having variation in your designs or sketches or whatever adds interest for the eye, more stuff to look at, which is cool. Keeps your eye busy, keeps your eye healthy, keeps your eye working out. It's a good way to stay in shape. How's that? How's yours looking? They're all going that way. That way. I thought we covered vanishing point. We're all shooting. We want to converge on that point, right? So I don't know. You can see this table. Everything's going that way, like the table's moving, but that's staying still. Anyway. From there, I guess we'll just continue to add more detail. Now, this has this little flip here of the toilet paper. I mean, I think that helps. I mean, if you looked at this, would you know that that's toilet paper? No, something like that. That's gonna help. Okay, that's a fabric. That's paper, not fabric. It's paper. It's gonna help. So I'm going to. No, I should sharpen this. Now, I chose just to work with number 2 pencils because I know that's what all of you got in your homework packets from the school. Okay. Their line there. And so I'm just going to go this little line here. And it actually goes out beyond the roll in front of the duct tape for me. And actually could have gone lower. And then I see it kind of shoot back towards the duct tape. And it comes straight up to right about there. And you have the rest of the toilet paper take place there. And I can see just behind that kind of like a triangle I just made. Kind of scoop down almost right to the end of where I can see the toilet paper go. So now I can go in, I can erase stuff I can see in there. It's not perfect, but so you see that kind of flipping out. Mm-hmm. What'll really make that show up, I'm guessing, no expert. Let's see. You can see this kind of like flash of light right there. Flash. And then, like that. And this could probably be a little less there. Bloop, 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 bloop. How's that?
Easy.
You could do it darker as it gets closer. Okay. How's it going? You colored in the paper where the highlight is. Why'd you do that? How am I supposed to sell these on Etsy if you keep covering up the highlights? So yeah, leave that highlight. I mean, this is just for fun and practice. So leave that as a highlight. You'd spotted one of my cheats. So this thing of corn, when I look at it, I have trouble seeing, okay, for instance, the toilet paper, it's white. I can see where the shadow is. When I was starting to practice drawing again, Papa, he had said, oh, go draw eggs. Go draw white eggs. It's easy to see. Choose your light source. You can draw the shadow falls and so on. And I look at that. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell. So what I did was I took this out. I put a piece of paper around it. It's probably a better way to do it. So I put it back in there. Like so. Bloop. Like that. Now I can see, okay. Almost kind of split. Almost like in half, almost. But you see how the light is like coming off of here and hitting back there. Mm-hmm. So this is lighting that part right there. So we have another line right there. So interesting, huh? Yeah. Now I had already gone in and sketched in some shadings. Not really no tone really, mm-hmm. But that's totally up to you. I mean, you're doing the still life, and it helps that we have a light coming off from the right. So if we make that our light source, we know that we can go, okay, there's shading here, and a highlight opposite the other side because of the highlight where the light's hitting here. It's kind of lighting this area there. But the can itself is shooting off on the side there, so there's a shadow on the duct tape, right? I'm not sure if you can see it or not from your angle, but from me, I can see how the toilet paper is adding a highlight right there, and there's just a small highlight right there. You can kind of shade in or add tone to the rest of the duct tape. That's where the tape starts. But it's interesting because you can see the little flicks of highlight because it's reflective coming off from like the paint and stuff. So if you figure out how to do that, tell me, all right? And we're gonna pretend the floorboards are wood grain. And actually, when I'm drawing, I won't just keep the paper straight on like this. I'll pick it up and move it to get whatever angle I want. And I'll take my pencil and I'll do. Now I'm gonna still shoot for the vanishing point when I do like wood grain lines. Wood grain, like have all these like scoops, right? And some have straight lines, but I'm trying to make them all wiggly. So if you're aiming towards that vanishing point. Mine aren't too good. How are yours? Maybe I'll just do straighter lines. You could go in and continue to add detail and use the things I talked about earlier with tone, shading, cast shadow. That's one thing I haven't done here yet is cast shadow. Let's do that first. All right, so for me, I can see the cast shadow of the corn can, and the toilet paper. Now it's weird to see it at that angle, but when I talked about it earlier, the shadow being seen at an edge and being a narrow version of the form or a slice of the form. So I kind of have to like push that there. And what was the tip I said? If it's a dark tree with a shadow on the snow, that it's going to be lighter than the shading on the tree, right? Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Okay. So like that. Put that there. And let's see, that's really the only cast shadow I have there. As I was saying before, you could go in, add more detail. You could really put a lot of tone into the background and allow the light and everything to really pop out. But that was the example I want folks at home, all the kids who we miss dearly, to try out, and sit with their folks and doodle together. So I've got other things here, but nice job. That looks good. I'll trade.
Okay.
There. Now we have more toilet paper.
Yay.
That's in good.